going on, everybody? It's Richard Koberger here, the Blue Collar Nerd, and welcome to the very first release notes of 2026. So first on these notes, under adaptive capacity, you can now use Atlas to build out your adaptive capacity rules. So previously, if you wanted to set up capacity rules, you would have to manually build them yourself. But now you can use Atlas, which is ServiceTitan's built-in AI assistant. So you can just tell Atlas in plain language what it is you're trying to do, and Atlas will build it out for you. For example, you could say, hey, Atlas, reduce my HVAC capacity by 20% just for the month of July. And then that rule would just automatically be built out for you. And by the way, if you're not familiar with adaptive capacity or you just need more help understanding it, I do have a separate video all about it, and I'll throw a link to that in the description box down below just in case you need it. Next, under adaptive capacity, when a CSR clicks the Get Adaptive Availability button, they'll now be able to see technician drive times. That way, if there's multiple technicians who happen to have open capacity for a particular type of job, they can also take into account which technician is going to be closer to that job. And if this interface is looking familiar to you, that is because it is the interface from Schedule Assistant, which is a separate dispatching feature that you can still use independently, but now that is also built into adaptive capacity. So if you're using adaptive capacity, you now get the Schedule Assistant features as well. All right, next, under Customer Portal, the Customer Portal has been completely redesigned. So previously, the Customer Portal wasn't good for a whole lot other than customers paying online invoices. So if your customers wanted to get information about past jobs or upcoming jobs, or view all of their open estimates, or view information about equipment that was on their location, they would have to call into the office, or if you had sent them that stuff, then they would have to dig through their emails. So now all of that stuff is available in the new Customer Portal. So they can now see past and upcoming work, they can see service agreements, they can see estimates, they can see invoices, and they can see equipment history. The new portal also features updated online estimate links and online payment links with a more modern design. Once you get upgraded to the new Customer Portal, it would be a good idea to go into Settings, Communications, and Customer Portal, and then click on the Feature Control tab. And that's where you can configure how you want some of these new things to work. Next, under Dispatching, we have a y'all item, which is audit trails for non-job events. Now this feature is only going into early access with this release, but if you'd like to try it out, you can just toggle it on yourself. And you would do that by going into Settings, Dispatch Board, and then New and Upcoming Features. And with that enabled, whenever you click on a non-job event on the dispatch board, you'll get this flyout, which will have two tabs, one for non-job event information and one for the audit trail. And from the audit trail tab, you'll be able to see who changed what and when as it relates to that non-job event. And if you want even more detail, you can click that little button that says Expand Audit Trail. And from there, you'll be able to see granular detail about what was changed. So you can see the exact field that was changed, what the field said before, what it said after, who changed it, and on what date and at what time. This has been a long requested feature, and I am so glad that it is finally here. I mean, in early access, but basically finally here. Howdy, y'all. Next, you can now customize which columns show up on the jobs tray. So that jobs tray is that area underneath the dispatch board, which with the new redesigned dispatch board, you can kind of slide up and down. And previously, the columns that showed up in the jobs tray were static, but now you can customize them to your liking. To do that, from the dispatch board, you would click on Dispatch Preferences, which is that little cog icon in the upper right-hand corner. And from there, you will see a section called Jobs Tray Columns. So you can check off the ones that you want to show, uncheck the ones that you want to hide, and then drag them from that left-hand side to change the order that they show up in. Next, we have the new job detail popover on the daily dispatch screen. So previously, dispatchers would have to click into every job to get either the flyout or the job page to see basic details like service location, the technician that was assigned to the job, and the arrival time. But now you can simply hover over a job bubble and then you'll get a popover that shows all of that information. And that brings back the quick glance functionality from the old dispatch board. And that works in both the horizontal and vertical view, by the way. Next, under Enterprise Hub, you can now search across all tenants with global search in Enterprise Hub. So this feature adds a unified search bar to Enterprise Hub, and that's going to allow you to search for customers, jobs, invoices, and more, all from one place without having to open up multiple tenants, multiple tabs. Next, under Estimates, enforce minimum margins with the new Margin Enforcement feature. So if you have like an absolute floor margin that you never want your salespeople and or technicians to go below, then you can now set that up under Estimates and Sales Margin Control. And from there, you can set up a global margin rule and or role-specific margin rules. And if you set up both, then a role-specific rule will always take precedent over the global rule. So for example, you could say for a sales technician, your absolute bottom margin is 40%. And then if they give a discount that brings the margin below 40%, whether that estimate is being built from the office or from the field mobile app, they will get this alert, letting them know that their margin is below the minimum requirement. I really love this feature. I wish it was in place when I was operating, honestly. But I will say that for this initial release, margin enforcement is a bit of a strong descriptor. Because at least for now, it doesn't actually prevent anybody from selling below the margin. It just gives them that alert. So at least for now, they could, in theory, still ignore the alert and sell it anyway. But hopefully in the future, this is not a promise, but like hopefully, this is the vision anyways, one day it will have built-in approval workflows so that if something is trying to be sold below the margin, it will be sent to a manager, and then a manager can decide if that's going to be okay or not. Okay, next on these notes is the Field Mobile App section. And we are, of course, talking about the new Field Mobile App. So first of all, we have some lingering features from the old mobile app that are being brought over into the new one. So first of all, we've got the content portal, which is that feature where you can make posts from the office, you can upload documents, and you can push it out to some or all of your technicians to see. That is now available in the new Field Mobile app. We also have the ability to collect deposits on estimates being brought over to the new Field Mobile app, and the ability to collect ACH payments. We also have some completely new features, starting with technician work logs. So technician work logs is a feature that's going to be mostly useful for commercial service and replacement companies. So previously, if a technician finished a day's work on a multi-day commercial service job, then the technician would open up a job level invoice summary and add all of their notes and risk overwriting any prior entries. Then a manager would probably look over those notes and maybe do some rewrites before sending the summary out for the billing. And most office teams would send those summaries out manually. And then the technician would get the customer's signature acknowledging that the work had been performed. But now, in that same scenario, when a technician finishes a day's work, they can go into the mobile app and go to Add and Add Work Performed Log. They would then tap Work Summary and scroll to Work Performed Logs. And from there, they can tap Add to enter their notes and save. And their name and timestamps are going to be automatically added to those logs. And other team members are going to be able to see all of those notes in order. Then at closeout, administrators can require all logs to be completed before moving forward. So basically, multiple technicians can all independently add their notes to this job as separate work logs. And then using Titan Intelligence, these notes can be all combined into one clean work summary for the entire job. And that's going to integrate directly into the work order document. Next, there's a new tablet-specific feature to present estimates side by side. So previously, when a technician went to the Present Proposal screen from the Field Mobile app, the layout only showed one estimate at a time. But now, assuming they're using a tablet, they can present up to 3 estimates at once. And of course, if they have more than 3 estimates, they can still scroll horizontally to see the rest. Next, for the Field Mobile app, we have a new dedicated Projects tab and Project Search Bar. And this one is mostly going to be relevant to residential and commercial construction companies. So previously, technicians had no direct way to search for projects in the Field Mobile app. But now they can tap on the Projects tab in the main navigation bar to view their 5 most recently open projects, or search for a project by the project name, project location, project address, customer name, or project status. And now from the Opportunities tab of the Field Mobile app, technicians can now edit estimates. There's also a new Audit Trail tab within that for more transparency about those changes. Next, under Financing, you can now add financing pre-qualification links in customer notifications and Marketing Pro emails. So under Settings, Integrations, and Financing, there's now a new tab where you can configure pre-qualification rules. And once you set that up, pre-qualification links will show up as options that you can insert into your customer notifications and your Marketing Pro emails. So for customer notifications, you do that by going to Settings, Communications, and Customer Notifications, and then you can drag in a pre-qualification link from there. And for Marketing Pro, you should see pre-qualification link as a merge tag that you can insert into your templates. Next, under Forms and Media, improve collaboration with document annotation and commenting. So you can now add comments directly to documents and directly tag other employees, be that in the field or in the office. And whoever you tag will receive a notification about it. And using this comment section, you can even carry on fully threaded discussions. To do this from any particular project page, go to Documents, Forms, and Media Attachments, open a PDF, and then you should be able to add comments and annotations from there. Next, under Global Navigation, the side Global Navigation is completing its rollout. So for a while now, the navigation bar has been moved to the side with an option to revert it back to the old location at the top. But now, as the side navigation completes its rollout, the option to move it back to the top is going to go away. Remember that with the side navigation, you can collapse and expand it to make it take up more or less space. And you can jump directly to subpages by hovering over something and then clicking on the subpage. So for example, if I wanted to go to recurring service event follow-ups, I could just hover over follow-ups in the side nav and then click directly on recurring service events. Next, under identity and user management, we have multi-factor authentication enforcement for administrators. So this change is now going to enforce multi-factor authentication for administrator roles who haven't already enabled it. And yes, I'm aware that multi-factor authentication is annoying, but it's kind of a necessary evil to protect the sensitive information that is stored within our accounts, including our accounts in ServiceTitan. You know, it's like wiping after a number 2. It's annoying, it's gross, but there's consequences if you don't do it, and so I usually still do. All right, next, under job and project management. Track and resolve project issues centrally with RFI and change order request management. So this is a new feature that helps track requests for information, or RFIs, and change order requests on construction projects using a new built-in workflow. So you can now create and track RFIs and change order requests inside each project in ServiceTitan. Project managers can manage RFIs and change order requests on desktop, and then foremen can submit RFIs from the field using the mobile web view. RFIs and change orders will show in dedicated tabs with statuses, menus, and export options. So to access this, go to a project in ServiceTitan and then open the RFIs or change orders tab, which is where project managers can view all items, track statuses, and export to PDF. And then from mobile, if somebody's on a particular job, they'll click on the project link at the top of that job, and then scroll down on that project page to the RFIs section. And then from there, they can tap the add icon in the lower right-hand corner, which is where they can fill in information about the RFI and attach any necessary relevant documents. Next, under search, the global search can now be used to find custom field data. So previously, the global search only returned results for standard fields, but now it pulls in information from custom fields as well. Next, under service agreements, streamline renewals with bulk renew and status change actions under the service agreements follow-up screen. So you can now filter for expiring service agreements, multi-select them, and then take bulk actions like change the status and renew agreements. If any actions fail for whatever reason, you can view those errors in a dedicated drawer and return those failed items. You also get new filters and columns to identify agreement details like auto-renew status, creation method, and agreement ID. Next, capture and act on revenue opportunities with pull-through work on service agreements. So this feature lets you connect jobs and estimates to service agreements for the purposes of profitability tracking. So previously, profitability tracking only included planned work, but now you can tie jobs and estimates to service agreements and automatically filter by covered equipment and get full visibility into both planned and pull-through work. Next, you can now add task-specific forms to service agreement visits. So previously, there wasn't a way to require a specific form when adding a service to a service agreement visit. But now, if you link a form to a service in the price book and then specify that that form is to be required, then when booking a service agreement visit, now that association actually carries through to the job and invoice, so that the form will be required as expected. Next, under voice agents for phones and Phones Pro, you can now fully control and customize how the voice agent talks about your dispatch fees. So instead of like a hard-coded script, you can now choose which job types have fees and exactly how those fees are explained. Like whether they're credited back if they buy something, or if you waive them during certain promotions, or if they're waived for people on service agreements, for example. There's also now smarter job type matching. So under your settings and job types, there's now a section where you can enter a job type description, which can help train the voice agent to correctly interpret your job types. For example, if you have a job type called something like PDS-M, that might be like an internal code that your CSRs understand, but the AI is not going to really know what to do with that. But by entering in the description on that job type, now it's going to understand what PDS-M is. Next, we now have membership recognition and recurring service booking. So if a call comes in from somebody who has a membership with you, the voice agent can now recognize that membership automatically and thank them for their loyalty and book any due recurring service events. There's also now knowledge-based question answering. So the voice agent is no longer limited to just booking jobs. You can also now upload documents like price sheets or membership brochures or service lists, frequently asked questions, that sort of thing. And then the agent will be trained on that information and be able to answer customer questions. and you would upload those documents in the voice agent settings under knowledge base. And virtual agents now also have better intake through follow-up questions. So you can now configure follow-up questions so that the voice agent gathers diagnostic detail instead of just like generic call reasons. That way when a technician arrives on the job, they have better context for what's going on. And again, you would configure these follow-up questions under the voice agent settings. Next, under Field Pro, we now have more control over technician recording permissions. So previously, technicians could pause, stop, or delete recordings in Field Pro, and there was no way to control who could do that per person. But now within the Field Pro settings, administrators can manage recording permissions individually for each technician. Next, under Field Pro, you can now use the replacement part finder in Atlas to add parts directly from your price book. So before, the replacement part finder only showed part names and numbers from Bluon, but those suggestions couldn't be added directly to an invoice or an estimate. But now, through a custom AI mapping algorithm, we're actually able to find the matching materials in your price book so that you can select and add those Bluon recommended parts directly to an invoice or an estimate. And finally, under Scheduling Pro, your customers will now see a progress bar in the scheduler to give them clarity about how far along they are in the scheduling process. So previously, customers couldn't see how many steps were left when they were going through the scheduler, which might cause them to bounce early. So the new progress bar just shows them a step counter of how much is left to do. And it also replaces extra edit buttons with simple forward and back buttons. Also now in Scheduling Pro, if a customer has a saved credit card on file, Scheduling Pro is going to show them the last 4 digits of that credit card so that the customer knows which credit card that is and they can decide if that's still the one they want to use. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Hey, be sure to hit like if you liked this video and found it valuable. Be sure to subscribe to ServiceTitan's YouTube channel if you haven't done that already, and hit that bell icon so that YouTube notifies you anytime we upload a new video. And leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the release, what your favorite feature was, what features you're still hoping for in the future, what your dog's name is, how your Christmas and New Year's went. I'm kind of measured on engagement here, so whatever you got, I'll take it. Appreciate it. Happy New Year. Peace.